You are watching the MAPS Wellness Room. I'm your host, Miata Clark. Join me weekly for dynamic guests, tips, and advice. Most of all, positive energy. And remember, my friend, you have power. Welcome to another episode of the MAPS Wellness Room. I'm your host, Miata Clark. Thank you for joining us today. Today we have Kunle, or is that how you pronounce it? Pronounce your name for me.
Kunle,
Kunle. Sorry,
Kunle,
from
Kunle, Kunle.
Kunle.
Yeah.
Kunle. Got it. All the way from Nigeria, all the way across the other side of the world. We are very grateful that he's here with us today. So I was telling him that I was looking at his bio, and I'm very impressed with all of the things that he has accomplished. So he's a multi-talented nation-building and knowledge business strategist. He is the CEO of Kuntrol HQ. And he's also an advocate of mental health and suicide prevention in Nigeria and Africa at large, which is obviously why he's here today. In March 2020, he was nominated as 2020 Mental Health Champion by the World Dignity Project after his works have gained recognition by so many organizations and individuals within and outside the shores of Africa. And I'm sure I can go on and on about all the fabulous things you're doing. But I will give you this opportunity to introduce yourself to the audience and just tell us a little bit about what you've been working on and any projects that you have coming up.
Thank you so much, Riatha. I mean, let me start by saying it's a great privilege to be here with you. Having a good time already. As you were reading my bio, I was just smiling. I couldn't help you. I've heard my bio already over and over again, but you made me feel comfortable while reading it.
Good. That's a good thing.
Thank, thank you so much. Yeah, let me quickly do a little bit to let people know about
Mhm.
myself. Although I'm not really a good salesperson when it comes to selling oneself, but I'll
Mhm.
try.
Yes.
Okay. Basically, I am a mental health advocate or
Mhm.
enthusiast in Nigeria, and then I work across, every place you can mention,
Mhm.
Africa, and then Europe,
Mhm.
Asia, America, and everywhere, in order to
Mhm.
create not only sensitization or awareness but
Mhm.
support as well. And I have a not-for-profit organization and for a for-profit organization for that in Africa, whereby what we do is to see how we can create a means for people for accessing mental health service care. And
Mhm.
then the for-profit also makes it possible for people to afford it. So it's
Mhm.
all about accessibility and affordability. So we try as much as possible to raise people. After, I mean, there's a long story about how I delve into mental health in my country, which time might not permit us to say in here today, but
Mhm.
somehow I felt there are 1,001 people who have mental health related issue, but who are bottling it, who could not speak.
Mhm.
And someone who is very near and dear to me was almost a victim of suicide. And
Mhm.
it took my intervention to
Mhm.
really halt that particular situation at that point
Right.
in time. And I felt there are 1,000,001 people who will need this particular
Mhm.
intervention. So we could definitely up our game when it
Right.
comes to creating support for them. So that's how I got into the space. And I've
Mhm.
been able to do a lot,
Mhm.
without having a chip on my shoulder. But
Mhm.
I am just saying, yeah, I've been able to collaborate with people. I love collaboration, and that's also
Yes.
one of the things that brought me here.
Mhm.
Collaborating with people, making
Mhm.
the voice heard in one way or the other. So basically, that's who I
Right.
am.
Well, you did a very good job on selling yourself. I'm sold. One of the things that, or two things that you mentioned that stood out to me the most was you spoke about affordability and you spoke about people basically suffering in silence. And those
Mm,
two things, I feel are two of the main things that we as mental wellness advocates have to push for. So, affordability, so people can feel like they can afford the help that they need, which by default may make them speak out more about what they're feeling. So, I wanted to just touch base on that. So, based on your experience and what the work that you've been doing, what would you say is I would say, one of the main mental health challenges that you see in Africa, particularly in
Mm,
Nigeria? Like, shed light on what that is so that the world can know, and you'll be surprised
mm,
how many people will want to help and assist. So, tell us a little bit about those challenges, or what you see the most there.
mm. Yeah, thank you so much, Miatha. One of the prime challenges that people face in Africa, and that somehow might not be peculiar to Africa
Hmm.
alone when it comes to the mental health space, but somehow it's a little bit pronounced
Hmm.
in Africa more than it is in some other climes,
Right.
and that is stigmatization about mental health. A
Hmm.
whole lot of people in Africa suffer from mental health related issues, not because there are nobody to come to their
Hmm.
aid or help them, but
Hmm.
because they bottle up things as a result of what the society had really
Hmm.
conditioned them to. People don't
Yes.
want to speak about mental health related issues because of how they view it, because of
Hmm.
that generally people
Hmm.
tend to associate mental health to psychiatry or to
Yeah. Yeah.
sanity. So when you
Yeah.
when you ask an average African man or African lady that you need
Mhm.
to talk about your mental health, you need, or do you have any mental health related issue that want me to talk about? And the next question they would tell you is, when I'm not mad, am I mad? Why would you talk to me that way?
Right.
That is
Right.
that is
Right.
the basic orientation they have. And these
Mhm.
are the things that people had grown up to learning from their
Yep.
parents, and they will pass across to their children.
Mhm.
And I mean, as a matter of fact, when they have a child who is having a mental disorder, they will not even want
Mhm.
to speak up that in our family we've not had something like this. So why should you I mean bring a taboo to our family?
Mhm.
They would rather go and put that child in isolation, and
Mhm.
that child is deprived of every right he or she is supposed to have in one way or the other. And
Right.
these things are prevalent in Africa because of the fact that there is no proper awareness, there is no proper sensitization, both within the public and private sector. And I must
Mhm.
speak so well on this because some of the conversations we've been creating is to see how the government also can take ownership of this
Mhm.
particular, important part of our lives that we
Mhm.
cannot even do without. Because if
Mhm.
if the government, I mean, in a particular nation now tries to create an enabling environment for other
Mhm.
people to operate, it will now begin to create, massive result in that
Mhm.
aspect. I mean, for example, now in Nigeria, where I speak from,
Mhm.
the Lunacy Act of 1914 is what
Mhm.
is very close to what we use in operating mental health in
Mhm.
Nigeria. And that, I mean, things have moved between now and then. And the Lunacy Act there has to talk about, psychiatry, something that I
Mhm.
mentioned earlier on.
Mhm.
Exactly. So, and that would definitely prevent a lot of people from coming out, because what has to do with mental health that the government has to talk about has to do with people who are maybe having,
Right.
exactly psychiatric related issue,
Mhm.
madness, and all those things. So, the government has a lot to do. Everybody
Mhm.
also needs to take part in it. And when the government
Yep.
comes up to do something, the private sector also will see it as part of their responsibility, either social responsibility or otherwise, to come to play in that regard.
Mhm.
So these are
Wow.
some of the challenges we are facing.
And
Stigmatizing.
yes, and I will have to say, to your earlier point, that's not unique to Nigeria. Unfortunately, it is a worldwide problem, but specifically in Nigeria, I would agree. And to your point, also, we have to change the narrative of
Mm,
how we view it. You know what I mean? Because if we don't change the narrative of how we raise our children, how we perceive mental wellness and mental health, to your point, it'll just be cyclical. It'll keep going and going and going, and people won't feel comfortable talking about their mental wellness. And to your point, it doesn't mean that you're crazy, you're mad. We
Yeah.
all have traumas that's passed on to us. We have traumas and things that we're dealing with in this forever changing world and so fast. And we have to be equipped on how to deal with it. And if we don't, we're creating or we're perpetuating a problem that will just keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So
Sure.
I am with you on this fight. We have to change the narrative, people. We can't continue to create a climate of judging people for tending to their mental wellness or, getting help. Is not the case. You know what I mean? And and a lot of the people that's doing the judging about that are probably suffering internally too. They just don't, you know what I
Absolutely.
mean? And to your point also, it's about how we were raised and, oh, you're, you know what I mean? They just, we gotta stop that. So my last question to you is, what suggestions or advice would you give to people on how to tend to their mental wellness, or, how to reach out and,
Mm.
letting them know that there are people there to help? What would you say?
Mm. Two things that I'm going to talk about. Number one, the first thing that I used to tell people is in our world today, we need to take, when we ask ourselves, how are you doing?
Mhm.
The next thing you expect that person to say is, I am fine. And a whole
Yep.
lot of people have issues they are going through,
Mhm.
and then they cover it with a facade and they
Mhm.
smile. And at the end of the day, you find out that there are 1,001 things that they will have revealed, but because the society will feel, when I ask you this way, this is
Mhm.
how you should respond.
Right.
And I call it mere mannerism. We need to take
Mhm.
how are you beyond
Mhm.
mere mannerism. Because if we ask with empathy, it will
Mhm.
show that we care. And that
Yeah.
person will come out and speak to you about
Mhm.
whatever is going through. And that is you that talks about us creating a
Mhm.
safe space for people
Mm.
to come to ask for help. So that's the
Exactly.
first thing first, creating a safe space. When
Mhm.
you want people to come, it is not about you even telling them what to do first. It's
Mhm.
about you making them feel comfortable to
Mhm.
talk to you. I mean, you don't even have to be a professional,
Right.
because
Right.
somehow, some people, yeah, you just have to be someone who is there for that person, who could also refer that person out to a professional if you know that it is not something you can handle. Then, number two is the fact that even as a human being, generally, there are so many, toxic behaviors that we have:
Mhm.
masculinity, toxic
Mhm.
femininity, toxic
Mhm.
positivity, and the rest.
Yes.
I want us to know that it is not weak to speak. Asking for help is not a sign of weakness.
Right.
Sometimes we need help. It doesn't matter whether you are even an expert or a professional yourself.
Mhm.
Myself, I have people I speak to whenever I have one little issue, and then
Mhm.
that's the end. But most
Mhm.
people want to feel like they are just superhuman, and they feel like they don't even need the help of anybody. And that's how the society has boxed us up sometimes. That
Mhm.
as a male child, you have to man up. You don't have to show
Mhm.
your emotions. Why should
Yep.
you cry? Why should you let people know you are weak? Why should you let people know that you're at a crossroad? Why
Mhm.
should you let people know that you're at the twilight zone in making your decisions sometimes? You need
Mhm.
to man up. You need to show that you are a strong man. And then we
Mhm.
have a whole lot of men who are dying in silence. We have a whole lot of men who are at a crossroad. They don't even have anybody to ask. There is a whole lot of emotional tension in them that they are bottling up, and they have nobody to run to as a result
Right.
of what the society had so much conditioned them to. It is not weak to speak. Asking for help is not a sign of weakness. So whenever anybody who is watching now, you feel that your mental health is down, you're having so many things, come on,
Mhm.
speak up, ask for help. That's my advice for you.
Oh gosh, I'm gonna be honest. I felt myself tearing up a little bit because I hate it. Because okay, so a little bit about me. Sometimes I was that person that felt like, you don't want to burden other people with your issues. So we are
Mm,
trained to say, "Oh, no, 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 I'm fine. No, 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 I'm fine."
mm,
And
mm,
it does more damage than good. It really, really does. So I love the advice that you gave. And also to the men specifically, women, we have the same issues, but to your point, men a lot of the time suffer in silence because we know the society and our family origins tell us that the men are supposed to suck it up, and that's not the case. We got to uplift our men. We got to support our women. I am so grateful for this opportunity to speak with you, and I know that we will collaborate in the very near future. And thank you again. I truly appreciate it. And to all of our audience, thank you for joining us, and join us again next week for another episode of The Wellness Room. Bye. Thanks for watching. If you'd like to be a guest here on the MAPS Wellness Room, email us at themapswellnessroom@gmail.com. Until next time, I'm sending light, love, and